One. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another ToB Games. I am Julian Musha. I'm joined by Jeremy Cozier.
Hello.
Did I look the right way? Yeah, I did. Joining us virtually again today. Daniel's not here. He sadly has passed away. No, I'm just kidding. He's I don't know what he's doing. Sleeping, something. He's busy. So me and Jeremy, are going to cover the latest in video game stuff. We haven't done a ToB Games episode in a while. I know some of you are excited about it, some of you less so. But I guess
please be excited.
Exactly, giant enemy crabs. It's that and that's such a great reference too, because this is the time of the year, like the cycle. Every 10 years or so, where we get to be really excited about like the new stuff, right? The next gen consoles are right around the corner. It's a little bit muted, I guess, because of the whole pandemic situation, which kind of sucks. But there's certain kind of traditions that are a little different this time around than they were last time. So we'll talk about some of that with all the pricing announced and all that, as well as the biggest news in gaming in the last 5 years, which is Microsoft buying Bethesda. We'll talk about that as well, and just generally. If we've been playing anything, or if what we've been thinking about gaming lately. I'll just give a quick plug to our Discord. You can join our Discord by helping support the show at Patreon, patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. We have a good group of people in there. It's still growing. We're still in the process of transitioning from our Slack channel to our Discord channel. But there was some quick chat about next gen stuff, and like, well, where should we play, PS5 or Xbox Series X, or what should we do? So there's been some chat about that. If you're interested in having that conversation with us, please join the Patreon, join the Discord. Love to have you there. So without any further ado, let's get into this. Jeremy, do you want to start with Xbox stuff, or do you want to start with PlayStation stuff?
I guess PlayStation stuff. Why not?
Okay, right, because we've been PlayStation boys for a while, right? I've told the story a couple times about how you sold me on a PlayStation 3 when you showed me the intro sequence to Uncharted 2, and we tried to find a PlayStation that night. We drove around the city looking for a 24-hour Walmart that did not exist.
Probably could have Googled it, but I guess
we just weren't thinking about that. We just got really caught up in it, We had a car, we could drive anywhere. This is what I like about the next gen stuff, is that it's like snapshots in time, right? Where were you when the PlayStation 4 was revealed for the first time? Where were you when you got your first PlayStation 4? Versus now, we're coming around to the PS5 era, which I think you're leaning that way. There's some news now that I think maybe might, shift that a little bit. I think Microsoft is coming along pretty strong with a lot of stuff that they're thinking about, a lot of stuff they're showing. It's pretty exciting, but I'm still leaning PlayStation. So let's talk about PlayStation. The pricing was revealed. They did an event.
$630
in Canada. That's the Canadian price, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, $629, and then for the digital edition, $500 or $499. A bit steep, I guess, is what you're leaning towards here. Is that what you're thinking?
Well, yeah, I mean that's pretty close to what the shocking reveal of the PS3 price was, right? Which
right, you get
ultimately changed. Yeah.
That's right. I mean, in the States it's $499 and $399. We're kind of getting hosed a little bit on the exchange, just not by much. What's really interesting as a Canadian is the pricing for the Xbox Series X and Series S, because not only is it $30 cheaper for like the top end one, the Xbox Series X 1 terabyte console, but the Series S, which in the States is what is that in the States? It is.
Well, isn't the top of the line on both ends $499?
Yeah, it's $499 in the States,
and then you have the $399 option.
Right, and
with
then
the Series S.
and then in Canada they did $379 instead
Right.
of jumping it a whole extra, $100,
Mhm.
which is actually a nice move. You don't see that very often. Like it kind of gives me a little bit of like a like props to Sony for not just hosing us a little bit. That
Right.
being said, I have heard some rumors around the the limited supply. I guess not even rumors, but it's kind of a conspiracy theory that neither Xbox and Microsoft or Sony are really making a ton of the like low end versions, right? Whether it's the
Mhm.
discless version for the PlayStation or the Series S. Um, that it's purely to say price starts at $499 or price starts at
Yeah.
$379 in Canada. So, but it's like good luck finding one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, basically.
Um, does this price difference? But by the way, for before we get into the PlayStation or the Xbox stuff, does the price of the Xbox Series S entice you at all? Does that say that's a reasonable price point to get me in? Would you consider buying an Xbox for that much?
I mean that's the story. Is the answer is yes. That's
Mm.
that price for the entry point. It just seems like a deal. Like when you have a
Yeah,
3 there, right?
it's hard to
So
beat.
that's going to be the Trojan horse or whatever you want to call it. Like I think people are going to buy into that because it's so much cheaper, coupled with the Xbox Game Pass and what you get, the value there
It's unbelievable.
is just insane. So those are the types of things that Microsoft is swinging big with. That is, I think, slowly starting to entice people, or at least make them listen. I mean, we generally ignored much of Xbox's branding and what they were doing because it just didn't seem
They had
like
no
it was.
games.
It didn't seem like there's no games for sure, and there wasn't much added value except for once Game Pass was created.
Mm-hmm.
But we still had PlayStation Plus and the deals you get there,
Right.
and lots of sales over the time, um, kind of to
It's hard to
like
argue
Steam.
though. Hard to argue against that Game Pass though, right? Like the
Yeah.
pure Netflix of games model
Hmm.
is just so attractive.
Yeah, and
Net,
that'll lead into the Bethesda acquisition, but I guess we can still
well, we
I'll
can
just talk
jump
about these
around a
two.
little bit. We
Yeah.
can jump around a little bit. I think the Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft is insane. It's crazy. The biggest one for me, and like I said, we'll jump around. We'll come back to some of this stuff, and I just kind of wanted to talk around, kind of just this what's happening in the gaming space right now, and this concept of not only Games Pass being like Xbox is saying it's the future, right? This is where games are going to be. You're going to pay a monthly rate, and you're going to get access to games day and date when they release on PC or wherever. It doesn't matter, and you have this whole library to choose from, right? Um, they're just betting the farm that that's going to be the future, and Sony's kind of saying, let's not change things up too much, right? Yeah, sure, we're going to raise our prices $10. Jeremy, like the price of a game, a next gen video game for the PlayStation 5 in
Hmm.
Canada is going to be like $100. Like that's
Basically,
just
yeah.
so. Congratulations, we made it, I guess. But it's never been a cheap hobby. But this concept, like, it really is extremely attractive when you consider like, a subscription to Crave, just as an
Hmm.
example, which is a streaming service up here, which is like $12 a month before you even add on HBO and all these other things. And sure, there's content there, but like for $10 a month, and I'm sure it's 15 in Canada, whatever. Um, the the value is just unbeatable. And if you when you bring in Bethesda stuff, we're talking Fallout, we're talking Elder Scrolls, you're talking
Yeah,
Doom,
huge
like
franchises.
it's like you just can't argue with it. And I mean, gives Microsoft the chance to say like, hey, we'd love to put Games Pass on PlayStation, but Sony just won't let us. I heard that today on GameScoop as like a concept I didn't really consider. Like
Hmm.
that's really funny to me. Um, the one kind of the thing that people have been really talking about and really fascinates me is this idea of, does Microsoft take these games and make them exclusive to Xbox and PC? Um, I have kind of some thoughts on it, but what do you think? They bought it for, what was it, $7.9 billion or something like that? Let me find
Yeah, it's
7.5 billion.
yeah,
So
that's a lot.
you can't even fathom that amount of money. Like I
Yeah.
can't, you know. So
And it just seems like an incredible move over a company that has been their number one struggle
right.
is a wide variety of exclusives that are must plays. And I mean, you look at what's in their catalog now. Doom Eternal was a
Right.
massive game this year. Could up for game of the year. Um, what was it? Fallout. I mean,
Well, yeah,
that's just
like
a huge. It's a huge series that's always been multi-platform.
right.
And there's plenty of others, right? So it's just, I think there's a lot of deals. I think the story is that there's a lot of deals in place that these games will, still continue on this release pattern of being multi-platform.
Right.
But I don't reload eventually, because I think they said that they're going to review certain games on a case-by-case basis on what they want to do with it. In terms of Microsoft owning Minecraft, of course they want that.
Right.
On all platforms and available. So if they want to sway the battle of the so-called console wars at any point in time, expect major moves like that. I mean, the announcement of this acquisition was a day before Xbox Series X and S pre-orders.
Right.
It's all strategic. Basically erasing what everyone's talking about. Sony's last press conference which was widely praised, and people are saying what a great launch lineup and all that stuff, but I still have reservations on it. Again, I'm not. Maybe not again, but I'm. We're not day one anymore, right?
We can't be day one.
We can't be, but I've always been on. I've always I would probably lean towards the PlayStation for sure.
Right.
But this go around, it's very interesting, just kind of watching from the sidelines, seeing what the offerings are on both sides, and it just looks so exciting on all these new things that are coming out. But just to jump back to price real quick, the Series S is a crazy big swing.
Yep.
That's going to work. And also a quick side note: the pre-orders ended up faking some people out. And they bought Xbox One X's, which is the current gens. Yeah,
I love that story so much, Jeremy. It's so funny.
It cements the confusion
Yeah.
that is the Microsoft branding, that some people say it's sexy or simple or whatever. It all started with the One X, right? It just
which was a dumb name.
Went backwards from there, and then when you add the word series, it makes sense in terms of how they're going to do iterations on this, but then just using the same letter again, right?
It's
silly.
It's one of the stupidest decisions. I guess not that stupid, because I guess they sold a bunch
of money. Yeah.
they made
but they're going to have to be in contact.
People are going to want them. Yeah,
they're going to have to work with these people now.
Yeah,
and get what they wanted. But again, their whole branding now is servicing all the machines you currently own, and whatever game you buy will be able to be up-resed and downloaded for free on the better hardware and all this stuff.
I hate how confusing it is, Jeremy.
It's definitely confusing, but I feel like if you have the console, if you boot up, if you know the store, if you know how games work, I feel like it's going to look rather simple, and you're going to notice the differences.
Sure.
But I don't want to forget about the PS5 Digital Edition, right?
Right.
That is that price there is what took so long for anyone to say anything, right? Sony really needed to see what Microsoft was going to do to kind of cut in to that mind share that is the Xbox Series X, the Lockhart, right, which was heavily rumored. And so when you look at this digital edition, it's crazy because it's the same as the disc version.
Different.
It just
$100 less.
There's no processing or any power less. It's $100 less than the top of the line Series X with the disc drive. Obviously, that one already is the most powerful with I guess two or some odd more teraflops.
Yeah,
but the general consensus is that we're basically not gonna see that difference, at least not in the first couple of years of the wave of games we're gonna get. But eventually, you look at The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4. It's pretty stunning.
Gorgeous. Yep.
Yeah.
I think if you saw those pictures, people comparing like the Halo Infinite cutscenes
Sure,
to
yeah.
like to
Well,
the
delayed,
Last of Us
right?
stuff.
So
Yeah, right. But like, I just when people start throwing around teraflops, my eye starts to glaze over again. I consider myself a technical person. I stay up to date with. I have to for
right.
my job, but also like just generally I enjoy that stuff. But like I couldn't tell you what that actually means in practical
Yeah,
terms.
well, what we've been seeing is that the way the PS5 is designed in terms of how it processes things, it potentially has faster loading capabilities, which can lend to developers being able to create more, detailed environments or whatever to kind of circumvent what a bunch of teraflops can do
Right.
or
I
whatnot.
mean,
So
it's
we have
all
to wait and see
yeah.
what those comparisons are and the crossover and whatnot. Um, but I think the PS5 digital edition is going to sell the most to begin with. I think it's the
Well, if there's available,
it's the top. You get the top of the line
yeah,
experience, but it's $100 less
yeah.
than the actual top of the line Series X.
I gotta have that disc though, Jeremy. I gotta have that disc drive.
Got to
The
have that
disc.
disc if
I
you're
got.
into movies, right? If you're into
Right.
movies, I think
Yeah.
you're going to get the disc version. But if you're not, and I think there's a
So
lot of
Jeremy,
gamers out there.
here's what we do. Here's what we do. Don't
What?
tell Dan. We're gonna sell that UHD player,
Yeah.
that
Well,
DVD player we got. We're gonna
well,
sell
we
it for
should
$200.
now. You should
Yeah,
have been on that already.
yeah. I'm gonna sell that, and we're gonna split the sale,
Yeah.
and we're gonna put that towards our console purchases. Okay, but
Right.
don't tell Daniel because he wants the discless version anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it makes sense to have in solo ways, right? Just in his room, he wants to tap into the best experience possible. That's mid-budget, and it's the go-to. But I think it's going to
Yeah.
be sold out, and
I
then we're
think
going to find out if people are willing to bite the bullet and go for, and especially in Canada, and go for that international markup of not just $100 more, right? It's $130 more. It's just it's a little bit more of a slap in the face, more of a reality check, reminder of the PS3 days.
Shit. And
and then that Series S, what's the Series S in Canada?
The Series X is only $379, Jeremy.
Yeah,
it's
so
crazy. It's less. It's over $100 less.
But
than
then
the PS5 digital edition.
But then coupling that with your TV that you purchase, right? Is that what you want, right? Because it's 1440p.
Please stop reminding me that. Okay, so you're right. Here's the thing. It
upscales to 4K. I don't know if that'll look any better.
Here's the God's honest truth. I've never actually played a game in 4K. I don't know what that actually looks like even on my 4K TV. I don't think I've ever, well, other than watching Watchmen in uncompressed 4K Blu-ray edition, I've never pushed my television with uncompressed 4K footage.
Yeah, and by the way, that Watchmen did look incredible, but they recently released an actual proper 4K conversion.
Oh, really? So that was an upscaled version of
yes.
Oh my! So Jeremy, I've literally because I've watched 4K footage.
Well, didn't I
Netflix?
Didn't I lend you the Blade Runner 2049?
No, you have not. You have to.
I thought you said you had that on the TV though, so that's not 4K.
I have the original Blade Runner running. It's
right. I have Days of Thunder in 4K, Blade Runner 2049.
Those are the best. You have the best movies ever made in 4K.
I think maybe
also
Logan
Marcos is here. I just wanted to mention, hey,
nice.
Marcos, how are you?
Always.
Yes, how we're doing.
Doing all right.
We're doing pretty well, I think. Not too bad. Yeah. Marcos is apparently getting a PS5 on day one. I want to know, Marcos, did you get the pre-order, or are you just hoping you're gonna be able to get one?
And which one, and how much is it? Where he's from?
That's right. We need to know all this information, please.
Because a lot of people are getting the pre-orders, right, and then they get an email the next day saying, unfortunately, you might not get it on the day.
One, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be a crazy string of weeks that
Jeremy,
of hey, they're coming into stock, and it's gonna be a lot of rumors.
I hate it. People are gonna be like, oh my god, they're available on Target right now. Go. And by the time you get there, they'll be gone. Yeah.
And then there's just factories right now, right, just trying to figure out just pumping them out. And then we hear of supply constraints for certain pieces or components.
Yeah.
It's a whole mess.
This is the complicated no shot at the pre-order. Yeah, same,
Yeah.
Marcos. Don't worry, we're gonna work on it.
And then you look on eBay, probably or Kijiji,
I
there's
hate it.
probably people like, hey, you want a PS5 day one? You know, give me $1,000.
The only
then
way it
it's
could piss me
yours.
off anymore right now, Jeremy, is if you brought up that Mario 3D All Stars package, which really boils my
Right.
blood.
That's good. I guess we should talk about that if we have.
Yeah, well, we can talk about it right now. Let's talk.
opinions or
We can.
viewpoints.
Well, we're gonna. Everything in games is available. It's up on the table right now. We're not
Right.
being very structured, but I do
Yeah.
want to just again catch up a lot of this stuff. It's
So-
we can kind of turn our gaze towards Nintendo, and they're just completely doing their own thing. You know,
Right.
they're just they're
Well,
like, no, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously notoriously secretive,
Yeah.
which adds to their allure. Right? They're basically the Disney of video games, essentially.
Mhm. Mhm.
If not more, historic when it comes to video games, right?
Who's who's the Warner Brothers of video games? Other
Well,
than
I
Warner
mean,
Brothers.
I don't know. Warner Brothers is so vastly different now
Right.
since being acquired by AT&T. So
Oh, it's so stupid. And so they were talking about, I was listening to another podcast, MinMax, and they're talking about like, okay, what are the biggest like acquisitions in gaming? And they're like, well, if you want to just use something as an example of like a completely other scale, what was the cost to acquire Warner Brothers by AT&T was something like
Right.
$80 billion. It's like, if you want to break your brain thinking about money, just think about that. That's insane
Right.
amount of money. Like it doesn't make any sense. But you're right about
It was for the best. Long story short, there, it was for the best.
because Warner Brothers was going out of business, or what was the?
No, because we're getting a 4-hour Justice
Oh,
League.
right. Okay, so it's
Yeah.
and if and you don't care if it costs 80 billion or 100 billion. I'm gonna be in day one.
But we digress. Back to was it Nintendo, right?
Nintendo. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I think COVID probably hit them pretty hard. It seems is what people are reporting.
Reason, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It looks like these Mario games were kind of done a while ago, but it made sense for them to hold it back for the 35th anniversary.
Yeah, but they announced it late for the 35th anniversary. That's the
very late.
thing.
But I enjoyed the notion that I was going to be able to play it so quick, like
right.
probably
it's out tomorrow.
Probably the quickest announcement of something that you've wanted, right? That you can remember. You know what I mean? Like, or so.
Well, I mean, maybe I was very excited about this, the prospect of a remastered Mario All Stars.
Well, that's the thing. That's the expectations, right? So you use the word.
They let it get like that though, because the rumors were swirling for so long, and they just kept building on it. It's like, and then Odyssey came out.
I don't know if you could fault them. I think that's the fault of people like us who are just excited and we want to talk about it. And that lent to plenty of podcasts, plenty of news outlets, wish lists, what they'd want, what they'd expect. And maybe somewhere, in the beginning of all that, there were some sort of expectations let out for that. But you look at the 25th anniversary edition on the Wii, that was just a repackaged version of Super Mario All-Stars from the Super Nintendo with basically nothing added to it. And then you fast forward to the 35th, a decade later.
So is it 15 years? But on the 50th, we'll finally get the actual.
That's kind of what I'm not seeing in the conversation is that why are we expecting the definitive iterations of these beloved games, especially Super Mario 64? I can see that one maybe being due in time for sure, right? Like you look at Zelda and all the games there that have been remastered, especially Ocarina of Time, right?
They did so much work on Ocarina and on Majora's Mask. Like, they
Ocarina,
actually went in and changed stuff.
Yes, but that was for Ocarina of Majora for the 3DS, which is a bit of a letdown there, but still way better looking and more diversity there, I guess.
They just fixed things, and this is like what pisses me off so much about this. It's like full price. We're giving
full price 3 games though, right?
Three games that are over the newest one is over 10 years old. That's insane to me.
That's the thing about Disney, about Nintendo is that their aim is that these particular games are essentially timeless in the realm of what video
Sure.
games are. And I have the kind of same mindset as you, but as I booted the game up,
You bought it. You're the problem.
yeah, I bought it.
You're the goddamn problem.
Well, I don't
This is the
necessarily,
issue.
that's the thing though. I don't think there's an issue because like you joke about the 50th anniversary, but yeah, I think that at some point down that road, with Mario 64 in particular,
Mm,
we are going to get a remake of it that uh, is just going to be astounding, right? It's
sure.
just going to be vastly
I mean,
different.
how
I
amazing
don't think
was it?
we're there. I don't think we necessarily deserve that right now. I don't.
we don't.
Almost,
We
I
haven't.
don't.
We haven't earned it.
Honestly, I think it's still too soon. I think
Maybe that's
if you look at games like Capcom or those type of very
right.
complicated, different type of games in terms
You're
of
thinking the Resident
kind of
Evil remake.
Resident Evil, right? Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, like you want certain games just to kind of get updated. With
Right.
Nintendo, their goal throughout all generations is that they're basically timeless. The way they design things, their characters,
Right.
the graphics they use for their handhelds or whatever.
Mhm.
It all kind of gels. And but with the N64 in particular, with the jump to 3D and the
Mhm.
pixels and
Right.
the polygons, all that stuff,
Polygons.
it's
Mhm.
very muddy, right? But there are people reporting on this 64. I guess they're calling it an emulation too, even. Uh, is that they did up-res
A
menu
couple.
stuff,
Sure.
images that are in the environments that just were super standard definition before.
Sure.
So the goal there was just to really bring these over exactly how they were, but with minor tweaks specifically just to Super Mario
Okay.
to Mario 64.
But what about when you think about this? What about when you think about the fact that there is a version of Mario 64 that has more stars and more playable characters
On the
available
3DS.
on the
The
original?
DS.
I guess it
Yeah.
was a DS launch
Well,
game.
it's
I
actually
owned it.
unanimously not very. Yeah, no, I beat it. I got the extra stars. I
Right.
love that game. It was my
Hard to
way
play on that
to.
system, but
It
yeah.
was, but it was our way. We were the right age to re-experience that game. Because we were what, like
So why is that not the
we were
version?
8, 7 years old experiencing Super Mario 64 for the first time,
Sure.
and then we get that new version, and it appealed to us. But I think it was reviewed rather poorly. People didn't like how there was the added content in terms of the characters.
Why would that doesn't
Um,
make any sense? That doesn't really like. I think if we look at that through a lens of 2020, it's a lot of people saying the controls don't
well,
hold
it's
up.
the
This
control.
game
Well,
isn't really
yeah, for sure. At the forefront is the controls, right? Look how you
right.
control that game
It doesn't
on
make
a
sense.
handheld.
Hmm.
The game was designed with the analog stick and the N64 controller in mind.
Hmm.
Um, so my experience with these ports, specifically with Super Mario 64, I was just kind of amazed at how crystal clear uh, and just vibrant and um, the modern aspects of it that
Mm.
you wouldn't see at the time. You can just see where this game came, how it started,
Hmm.
everything we know now. And
Sure.
it's like some sort of a skeleton or a shell, a lower powered version of it, but the details are all there when you're controlling it and moving around and figuring out all the aspects of the
Does
gameplay. So I was just enamored, just being in that world in a crystal clear light, and it felt like too good, almost of an emulation. Like it felt odd. It was so fast, smooth.
right.
I watched a video of someone kind of showcasing the slowdown rates that would happen on the N64.
Right.
I don't know if you remember playing that originally, but like there'd be
Maybe
like,
stutter, like a lot of
yeah,
stutter. Yeah.
right. Because I think the game is already locked in at 30 frames per second. So, but it would slow down from that. So on
Hmm.
the Switch, it's just a fast 30 frames all the time,
I
always.
mean, like, isn't that? I feel like to me like that's like we're setting such a low bar for Nintendo to say, well, just give me the same game again and
Right.
do the most bare minimum
Yeah.
of updating, and I will pay full price. And it's like, why is first of all, and this is
I get that, but you say full price, but it's three massive marquee games. You get three of
I
them.
get again, but they're
You
they're
get
old
three.
games. But
You
like,
get three for the price of one.
you also have to
They,
consider
they touched on Super Mario 64. They made Sunshine widescreen,
right.
and that game. Oh my goodness! You boot it up. It's like what? This is a GameCube game.
Right, it's
Like
ugly.
it's just no, it looks great. It looks great. It looks
Does it?
fantastic.
Good. Excellent. Good.
Uh,
That's good to know. At least I
yeah,
haven't played
I
that
think it
game in
looks
forever.
fantastic. And then for me, actually, I didn't play too much of Galaxy yet, but I was already wowed by that already on the
Right.
Wii.
Mhm.
I think the way they did the graphics and just how the gameplay worked and the music and everything, it's
Mhm.
just it lent to a very vibrant, adventurous experience that felt fresh and unique. Uh, I was just mainly really excited to be able to play Sunshine
Sure.
in widescreen, use a Pro controller, and even use a Pro controller, sit on the couch and play Galaxy, uh,
Mhm.
which
Instead of using
utilize
the Wii
which
remote,
right, which utilize or well, you couldn't use the Wii remote now. You'd use
the
the uh,
Joy-Con.
the Joy Cons, right?
Mhm.
But I guess the Pro controller and the GameCube Pro controller they have that built-in sensor to where you can kind of just you know
Well, I
not
mean, like
not
the
very
only
you can
motion
look around.
controls there wasn't a ton of them in. I don't recall. There was a couple
Well, in
in
Galaxy, you'd have to wiggle to
yeah.
do the extra spin jump or whatever.
Whatever.
So it's
Well, yeah, or
pretty essential. So now I
yeah.
believe it's a button tap, so you can kind of
Just like
stand.
the extra hat throw in Odyssey was a wiggle. I think if you were playing with the
Right,
Joy-Con
right,
too.
right.
Um, so I mean, like, and speaking of Odyssey, like, what? How much joy did you get out of playing around the princess's castle?
I
Um, in that, did you play that level in Odyssey? I mean,
no,
no
I
spoilers
mean,
for that game, but I guess kind of. If you can
yeah,
spoil
that's
a
like
Mario game.
yeah, no, I haven't seen any visuals of that yet. I've heard of that. I've been spoiled of that, but
Oh,
I never really dived into that game enough. To me, it was, I guess, a little too open world-ish, a little
right.
like I guess for me and my taste of games, I like to have a little bit more direction. And I'm almost like a guy who I'd rather watch a Twitch streamer kind of
Play Mario.
go through that game and experience it that way. Just because I just feel like it's a lot of time, right? You just jump in there and kind of just do whatever
Well, I
and
mean, like there's some pretty big worlds in that game. With like the
yeah.
desert one comes to mind, it's huge. But
Mhm.
like, maybe I'm spoiled, and maybe this is part of the reason that that announcement or what they actually ended up delivering was disappointing, is because what they did with the Princess Peach's castle in that game in Odyssey is just stunning. It looks amazing, and
Mm.
I would love to
Yeah, that's
see.
coming. I think that's coming. I just think that I don't know why we really expected it to come down. I think everyone really had high hopes
Sure,
during this crazy year, we really wanted something like that, especially since Nintendo doesn't have
but
much of anything else new. But I think it's just it's the anniversary, and
mhm.
they're celebrating it by giving you these games on I mean, one of the fastest selling consoles.
why
know,
why are they limiting the like how
I
long
mean
it's sold
that's
for?
Nintendo's MO, right? It's
Right.
always limited, and
Right.
it
An
works.
artificial limitation though.
An artificial limit.
It's anti-consumer. It's such
Well,
bullshit.
that's part of the reason why I bought the physical edition is that
Right.
I was near a store. I thought of that limited nature of
Mhm.
it, um, and as a collector, because I have all the games right in their
Right.
original
Original
packaging,
condition, yeah. Uh-huh.
all that stuff. I think it'd be cool to just experience those and like kind of tuck those away almost in a way, right? Just have
Yeah.
this digital version on my Switch or
Well,
the chip
it's
or whatever.
basically the easiest way to play Sunshine, which was really hard to
100%. It's
play
yeah,
for a long time unless you had a
right.
Wii with that or GameCube with that disc, which was hard to find.
Yeah, and
So, yeah.
The HD widescreen upres, I think it's gonna be hard to
Right.
pick the original over
Like
this.
that's really the only thing that really gets me excited, because the other thing that kind of really bums me out is that Galaxy 2 is not included, which I
That's
think
yeah.
is I think is completely unforgivable. In my mind, it's like
Yeah,
you're going to put these three games and you're going to ignore Galaxy 2, which for my money, people have been saying
it's
is
better.
one of the best games and better than the original one.
I haven't played
Um,
it. I haven't
and I
played it.
haven't played it, and I wanted to play it so
Well,
bad on
you
this
can
collection.
buy it on the Wii U eShop,
Oh, well, let me just go boot up my Wii U.
and then it just
Like,
gives you the Wii version of it that you can
no,
play
fuck
for your
that.
HD.
That I'm so no. Don't. You're just pissing me off again. I hate
Well,
it.
I own all that, so if you
Right.
want to try it
Okay.
out,
Let me just borrow your Wii U
but I
and
also
boot
have
it
it.
into Wii mode.
I also have Galaxy 2 on Wii sealed. I have a brand new copy of that.
because why would you ever open it? Because it's
Well, I
a
just never got.
PlayStation?
I never got the time to play it.
Right.
So when I bought it, obviously I wanted to play it, but I was like, oh, I got to finish Galaxy. So I probably
Right.
finished Galaxy. Probably
And
took me
that
a
never
long
happened.
No, I
Right.
think I did, but then I just didn't go straight to Galaxy 2, and then it just
Right.
kind of sat
It
there.
sat there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, you're right. I think Galaxy 2 would have tipped the scale, I think, for people who are in your
Mhm.
camp of just kind of seeing this as somewhat of a disappointment, if not a
Well,
major
and like if you compare it against like the Crash Bandicoot collection or some of
disappointment.
these other collections that have come out in the last little bit, like where they're
Yeah.
some of them have been completely remastered. They're $40. The Spyro collection, is another one.
Yeah,
Of these classic games,
exactly, that's the expectations
right?
we were
Well,
led to
it's
believe
because
the industry would do.
those are the
Yeah,
modern
but
expectations, and then
Nintendo
Nintendo's like,
always
nah,
they always just do what they do. But I kind of give them a pass when it comes to the Mario
right,
series because it's unprecedented for them to ever do anything to old Mario games. Only with the All Stars collection, right?
right.
But that was only on the Super Nintendo, right? So long
Well,
ago.
and that
And it
was
was
part
way
of what.
easier that they could just throw the NES version into a Super Nintendo powered
But they
version.
didn't. But they
Tweak
didn't
it.
do that. They actually updated the original version
Right, but
to
they still had
16-bit.
they still had the blueprint of what they were going to do.
Sure.
They didn't have to come up with innovative ideas on gameplay or how they're going to
Well,
execute
and
the.
that's kind of like that's the other weird, baffling thing is like there's some like glaring problems with like certain aspects of 64, like the camera, which
Yeah,
people
so
say doesn't
those
hold
that's
up.
unfortunate. That is
You know,
unfortunate. I feel like they should have went in there, uh, fixed the camera control to where it doesn't lock back instantaneously. Right,
right?
it goes against your will sometimes,
Hmm.
and obviously with Sunshine, inverted controls is not available
It doesn't
here.
make
So,
that is a
and
apps. That's so
I
crazy.
don't usually change my controls to inverted, right? Because
Right.
it doesn't start like that, right?
Right.
Most games, right?
Hmm.
Um, but with controlling the flood just based off how it's basically on the top of your head,
Yeah.
which is how you know what I mean, like
You're
you
pulling your
want to
head
pull it
up or pushing it
you
down.
want to
Yeah.
pull it back,
Yeah.
right, to shoot up, and that's down. So it's just there's a disconnect there for people who can't get over
And my
control.
understanding was that the original Sunshine was inverted. They had that was the original controls for the original version was
Maybe,
inverted.
but I'm
That's what
sure
people were saying.
I'm sure you can switch it either
Well,
way.
no, so they didn't have the ability to switch it back then, and it was inverted. And now they've
Oh, okay,
switched it, and they still haven't
they got
given you
back
the
to normal,
ability to
yeah.
switch it, which is
So it kind of sucks.
crazy.
But I hope. I mean, maybe they're listening to these complaints because there are there are many complaints,
Yeah,
but I think few of them really rise to the level of being like, yeah, like I think we can all unanimously agree that like these things should happen. And I
right.
think with the control scheme with Sunshine, I
They
think that's
have
something
to.
that they
And
could kind of throw in there.
we don't really think about this, but it's like this is 2020. They could patch this game if they
Hmm.
wanted to, right? But you
But then
just
they're
get the
talking
distinct
that
impression that they're not going to.
right.
you know,
Yeah, there's people reporting that they're going to add Galaxy 2 to it, but then it's like,
like
what
what?
does
No,
that
they're
do?
not.
What does that do to the packaging, right? With
Yeah.
three images, right? Of the three
I
different
mean, I guess
games.
like Galaxy, the picture for Galaxy would kind of take the place of 1 and 2 because it's the same idea. But like, yeah, there's just this. I think that's extremely naive to believe that Nintendo, out of the goodness of their heart, is going to provide you the ability to just. They're just going to give you Galaxy 2, to
Right.
this game you already bought. No, wait, they're going to
Well,
charge you.
yeah, and then if shifting back to the comparison to Zelda, it's like, when are we going to get that Wind Waker type remake that I
Like,
think
fuck, who
I
knows?
was kind of expecting for Sunshine,
Mm-hmm.
but didn't necessarily need, especially looking at the game now in this new upres version. Like I said, I think it looks pretty great. Like I'm immediately drawn to that game more than the others to just kind of start and play through.
Well,
Um,
I haven't played it in so long. I have a very fond memory of Sunshine from when I was younger. I'm pretty sure I beat that game like
right.
twice at
I think I was
least.
able to just rent it and I just try to play as much as I could.
I remember you could rent games.
Yeah,
What a fun idea that was.
that was one of the games I wanted to rent. I
Yeah,
forget the release date, but it just yeah, to me it's like that ultimate summer game, just based off the vacation he's on and the setting too. Um,
right.
but yeah, maybe Galaxy 2, they're planning the Wind Waker Wii U HD.
What a weird I guess there's you can't ever predict what Nintendo's doing, but that's a strange idea.
Yeah. Well, they still need to with Zelda. They still need to bring that Wind Waker HD remake
Right.
to the Switch.
It's one of the few outliers of Wii U games that are not yet available on the Switch.
Right. There's obviously there's the Mario 3D World, the 4-player smaller scale kind of sequel to the 3DS version.
Right, well, that's coming over now. And they're
That's
selling that again for full price.
Right. And then there's rumors that it's delayed. I think it's coming out in February or something like that, but it was supposed to kind of correspond with the 35th anniversary, which led to the other reports of Nintendo just not doing or struggling in some capacity. But yeah, I'd like to, and they also remastered Twilight Princess on the Wii U,
right? Which
wasn't a full blown remake like Wind Waker was, right? That was essentially.
Well, they did a lot of work in Wind
Waker. It was a heavy remaster. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would just say like a really heavy remaster. Just a gorgeous looking game.
Well, it always was a gorgeous game, and then it just lends itself more easily to be updated. I think that just naturally ages better.
So it's like imagine a package with those two, and then maybe even throw the Ocarina and Majora's Mask 3DS version somehow ported to the Switch would be a really cool compilation for a Zelda anniversary, which would live up to Nintendo's name and stuff, right? And I don't think anyone would have problems with that compilation.
No, you say all that, but just like, yeah, of course, that would be great. But it's like it just seems like constantly Nintendo seems to take people's expectations and just lower it one bar, and then people still buy it anyway, which is I think the most frustrating part for me, which is that like we should try to ask for more, demand more from Nintendo than the bare minimum, but like it just seems like they don't seem to care. So that it just really bugs me, and I get that. I think Justin Davis on GameScoop described it really best. He just said it was really rude. It was like a rude way of doing this whole thing, between the limiting the supply, between weirdly leaving out a classic game, between not really updating 64 and not even putting it in widescreen. Like there's like some of these things are just like it's just kind of rude. It's like I guess we'll buy it.
I think it's fair to hold Nintendo to those type of standards. I can just see both sides of the argument though. Like and I don't necessarily fall.
Why update? It's perfect. It's a perfect game. Why would you need to update it?
Yeah, I'm just very happy that they're all available and you can play them anywhere, and they're HD, they're up-res, they're fluid, and it's a celebration of that series. It just doesn't go in depth to really redo or super tweak anything. But I think they're going to hear this message loud and clear. And we'll see what the 50th, because I think
15 years
45 won't be as monumental, but 50 years celebrating video games and Mario in general.
Should we talk about I guess the rumor that there's an update to the Switch coming that's going to be support 4K, which I'm kind of confused. I think what it ultimately is going to be is like a lot closer. It's going to be a version of like the PS4 level specs on the handheld, just to keep up a little bit with what moving to the next gen here with PS5 and Xbox Series X. If you can't port over at least somehow a little bit, like we were able to get Witcher, for instance, on Switch, which I would say is probably. Yeah, which I don't think is probably the worst version of that game, but it's still a version, it's still playable. So it's like if you like
handheld playing, which a lot of people are into, I guess with the pandemic is not so much, but that is a major component.
Right. So it's like if you want those experiences and Nintendo wants to be able to bring those games over, they need to be able to provide a place for them, for the whatever the port of some big PS5 game will be. They need something that can do that. I think it's interesting that Nintendo even entertained the idea of 4K. They've kind of always been very far behind on that kind of stuff. Even with HD, right? Like when we had HD consoles with the PS3 and the 360, and the Wii came out, it was SD. Which I think about that now, and I think, wow, that's a bold move. And I guess that's kind of what the Series S is. I guess that's kind of what the Series S is, which is saying, hey, 4K isn't as important as people might think. It's only adopted by something like 35% of American homes, something like that. Most people don't know the difference or can't see the difference, so it's like it's not quite the same. But like the jump for SD to HD was pretty big. So like here, the jump from 4K on a small or HD on a small screen to 4K on a small screen isn't good. People, they're not going to notice, and then I think it's just about power.
Aren't these capable of 8K resolution too?
What is
the consoles?
Maybe streaming like media. I doubt they can do 8K gaming. Even the new like NVIDIA cards that were announced and released or pre-ordered, which no one could get either. I think they just barely support 8K, and those are kind of like next gen, like next level, beyond even what the next consoles are doing. So,
I mean, Nintendo's still selling amazingly, but just to kind of if things slow down, it's like you put a new product out there, and we're in a space where it's like Apple or just phones in general, right? Which is very iterative, and there's so much discrepancy between all these models. Like we just gloss over the fact that there's all these different models. It's like we're not
there's
necessarily
4 models available.
Yeah, no one,
which is crazy.
It's just more options, the better. Is essentially what people are saying. If you're going to pay this much money, and then the next question is, well, what are the differences? So
who knows?
Nintendo's going to be able to balance their difference and make it manageable to where you don't notice that much of a difference, right? Like especially with their marquee games like Zelda or Mario or whatever, right? They just always look amazing, right? That AAA polish. Like you look at Smash Bros, you look at Mario Kart, like they all stand toe to toe with the PS4 and the Xbox One X.
Microsoft could totally do a Smash Bros game now. They have enough brands. They could just do the PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, the Microsoft Bethesda.
Well, I think Smash is just too good, and it's just the best. I think it's at the point where those characters you're going to get the invitation to join the Smash.
It's like just like don't even try to do your own thing.
Right? It's just too big.
Yeah. It's like try to get Master Chief in Smash, not try to get Smash into.
Yeah, there's rumors of that probably happening. I mean, there's 5 more fighters I think to be revealed.
How cool would it be if honestly that would be very cool to me to have Master Chief. I mean, it doesn't really fit necessarily, but neither does Solid Snake.
Yeah,
so it's
or Bayonetta or
but like
Joker,
whatever.
Joker from Persona, you know what I mean, fighting Yoshi or something like that.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
but they're able to pull it off. Like it's just an extraordinary game, and talk about like that's basically all I'm playing as of late. Yeah,
I picked it up, played a little bit, was a little rusty.
Right.
But then I beat this Ganondorf online, and I felt so good.
Was his name Dr. Coconut or something?
I don't know, but I just hate Ganondorf.
I was owning Ganondorf. It's all about patience, really, with slower characters, which, I'm excited to maybe utilize that strategy against Daniel, but his timing capabilities,
it's too good. He's able to see half second into the future is what it is.
He taps into the Smash Elite, essentially. He's nowhere near.
You know what pisses me off, Jeremy?
Near the melee, roster of goats out there, of God players.
Right. He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
But like, you know what pisses me off, Jeremy? When I go online to play Smash on my Switch, it goes to Elite Smash. Right, and then it says, and then the only character available to play in Elite Smash on my Switch is Ike, because Daniel played on my Switch online.
You get like 1 million points or something like that.
I don't know. I think the number changes, but I've never been able to get there with Samus.
Mine is just so low. It just climbs low, like it just falls low.
I think mine's at like I get stuck around 6 million, give or take. And then I can't see, and then I lose a bunch, and then I can't win a bunch, and I can't really get past that.
Or 600,000, you're probably thinking.
Well, whatever. I don't know. It's some crazy high number.
I'm at like 200,000 or 145. It's like I just.
You got to get up. You got to get up there. You got to get.
Yeah, and my non-mains are higher numbers because I use my main and just lose all the time, essentially.
Right. Yeah. What is that? Who are you maining these days?
I just bounced back between
Uh,
Falco and Mario.
right.
I was doing
Uh,
Mario a bunch, and then
it's
uh,
tough. It's tough out there for Mario's in Smash, man. It's a tough world out there for
no,
Mario's.
I was feeling him. I was feeling like, you know what, I'm good with him. I'm doing good.
Right.
I can handle my own. So I just wanted to sharpen up my Falco, and I was playing some Melee over the summer with my nephews, who's really into Melee as of late, actually. Oh,
Nice.
Smash in general, to the point where he's downloaded the computer version.
Oh,
Uh,
the what the heck is that called? Yes, the one that's
there's,
like
there's
it's
two
got
different ones
updates and
now.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a 20XX one. There's a Slippy one, which is the new one. But I think he has the first iteration. I'm blanking on the name.
It's pretty
Uh,
cool. I know I
I
think we
lent
tried
my
downloading it once and it didn't
right.
didn't
I
work.
lent him my a GameCube controller
Oh,
and the Wii U GameCube controller port.
right. So you could plug it
The
into
same. You can use it. You can use it in the Switch as well.
right.
Uh, and we played at the lake, and that was pretty fascinating to see him beat me.
Well, mercilessly
Oh,
because
no,
children
not
are just
always. And then, but then I warmed up, and then it was just,
and then it was over.
Adam Sandler in when he's playing dodgeball with those
Oh,
in Billy
in
Madison.
Billy Madison. Yeah, that's right. Fair enough. I disagree. I think Donkey Kong is a superior game.
Right. And it was just
Um,
Mario. It was just Mario, smackdowns,
Yeah,
spikes.
bam.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Falco,
absolutely.
twist kicks, spikes. Just no.
um, so let's get back to the Series S, which I think is the most fascinating thing is this price point for the Series S.
It is, yeah.
And the thing, this is where I think they get you a little bit. 512 gigabytes for the no disk drive, 512 gigabyte hard drive. Not huge. You could fill a 512 gigabyte hard drive with like Warzone alone, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you have 500 gigabytes in your PS4, right? I opened mine up and put a terabyte in there.
Yeah.
Being excited coming from the PS3 generation, hoping to really enjoy the PS4
Right.
offerings and get a bunch of games and
you fill that up too.
Well, I did not right away, but it actually
Right.
eventually did with the PS Plus offering.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to strategically delete what you're not playing, but then that's kind of a hassle.
I'm pissed off about a little bit. Again, I'm pissed off about a lot of things, but what bugs me is like
You should really
yeah, right. Seriously, right. But it really grinds my gears. I hate anti-consumer moves. It makes me angry.
But
see it
aren't all
the
these
time.
price points on both sides here
Anti-consumer.
not anti-consumer?
Well, I think I'd agree. Yeah, I think people were worried that they would be much higher than this.
I think they realized that $499, was the number that wasn't too low and not too much.
They're both losing money on the consoles, which
basically. Well, Sony, the PS5 digital edition, 100%.
Yeah.
But they want to get just a ton of those out there.
I don't think there's a lot of digital editions that I think they're going to make. I heard 20% to the 80% in stock.
That's what I heard. Right.
GameScoop was saying that there was like closer to 1% that were actually sold on day one, and I think that's really telling. There's a couple things that physical hardware stores, like brick and mortar stores like EB Games or GameStop or Best Buy, are not incentivized to sell a digital only console because that's the only business they'll ever get from them.
Yeah, you're not going to come back after that.
So it's easy. Yeah, so it's like I think it's just very fascinating. This is the shift from the old world to new world with this digital only future.
So with that in mind, then shouldn't the prices be reversed?
So you're saying that it should be cheaper to buy the disc version,
right? And the digital edition, the crown jewel, the one that everybody wants anyway, because of the price point,
incentivize. I guess it depends on which perspective you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
If you're Sony and Microsoft, I think you'd want to incentivize people to buy the discless version.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about these fucking middlemen cutting into your fucking margins. I would, the smartest thing that either of these companies could do would be to do the Apple model and sell directly to you, right?
So there's no middleman. And that's what they've chosen then, right? That's why they've marked up these disc versions so much. But I think with with Microsoft, it's a bit different. It's just
there is a distinct difference.
one is truly just next gen, and you get the disc slot.
Yeah.
It's obviously more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is a lot cheaper. You don't get a disc slot, but you're gonna get a ton of games, and you're gonna be
Well, you're
with
gonna
us.
get all the games,
Yeah.
and the only difference is you can't play them in 4K. Which if you don't have a 4K TV, like, fuck it. Like, why would you even need an Xbox Series X? You know what I mean? And like, I think the one part they get you here is like, okay, it's 512 gigabytes. You know how much their official expansion card for for 1 terabyte drive is?
It's like the PS Vita days all over again.
Yeah, it's
The PS Vita.
don't even remind me. $299 Canadian for a 1 terabyte hard drive. That is
unbelievable.
Fucking highway robbery. You can buy a 1 terabyte hard drive today at Best Buy for like $50.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be like the best hard drive.
Well, no, sure, it's not. Yeah, these are
usually
SSDs and stuff like that.
Usually a terabyte, yeah, like just under 100 maybe.
Yeah, it's crazy. This like insane how much that. I mean, I understand that these are they're both of these consoles are saying SSD has to be SSD, core to the gameplay has to be that.
The Xbox One is cool though. They're like these little like chips that you just kind of plug in.
It looks really. The whole thing looks cool to me. I think the Xbox consoles look 500% better than the PS5. The PS5 is ugly as hell, man. That's why it really reminds me of the PS3 days, where it's like it's super expensive. They haven't really done a great job, with their marketing and branding. Yeah. It looks dumb.
I think
I
I share that sentiment. I remember thinking the word that came to my mind was hideous.
Right.
Which doesn't reflect on, my purchasing of it or
because like
or not. I was just saying, you know what, I'm a fan of this, but I do think it looks hideous, particularly when it's standing up. With the ears, it almost
like horns or something. Yeah,
it's like an alien or something to me, like Alienware type PC.
Absolutely, that's such a great reference. And like,
but in black though, I feel like it looks better.
I have to look at the black version. I haven't really looked.
And then I'd probably have it on its side as well, which just it looks totally different when it's on its side. Just radically a whole different look.
I also think the discless version looks better than
the
disc version
because you don't have that stupid nub.
Yeah. And it's like it's so huge too. The other thing that's hilarious about it, it's like people can't fit it like in. Oh yeah, that's true.
But what I will say about their branding here and their decision, I think the boldness of it, I think is winning. I think that we might not think it looks good, but I think the general consensus is that everybody wants the PS5. I think it's
you'll know it when you walk into someone's house and it's sitting on their
I think a lot of people are just like
see it.
Yeah, I just think people are it's going to sell like crazy, and we'll see what Xbox can do with Game Pass and the word of mouth and what people are seeing in terms of the benefit of Game Pass and the low price entry point.
I have to buy an Xbox. I think I have to do it.
Well, you look at the 360 PS3 generation, right?
Yeah.
The 360 just destroyed and killed.
You have to have a 360. Yeah.
It killed the entire time, but PS3 outsold it towards the end of that cycle, and became more prominent. And then the next generation of that, Xbox just stumbled completely with the Xbox One, and lost everything. And now PlayStation is trying to maintain that, right, after lesson learned.
It's as if they never learn a single thing from generation to generation.
You're saying PlayStation.
I'm thinking PlayStation. I don't. Or just generally. I
think they did. I think like I said, like we agree with the price point, right? The $499 price point. I think that is spot on.
They have to, and they were. Here's a question: do you think that was the price that they wanted to set?
No, absolutely.
But they saw Microsoft come out with $499. They said, okay, we have to do it. We have to go. $499.
Well, even their machine, they probably don't want to sell their top of the line one at $499 either. It's just they're gonna make games off the software. This is a transitional test period for people who want to fully jump into the digital revolution, but they're going to give you the disc version. Which you're going to do more in terms of its capability of streaming discs, but it's a lot more money because they, like you said, they don't want you to go to GameStop and buy these games with the disc. But if you are, because it's going to be a slow transitional period, then you have this available to you, but it's a lot more money. So I don't know if
Hmm.
that's the target audience, the people who have more money who want to keep buying discs. Because I feel like with GameStop, it's all about swapping
Trade
your
it in, buy the next game. Yeah.
and you're getting next to nothing for them, but it makes a difference when you want to just cast the
Yeah.
game away
It's
and get an experience.
unbelievable. It
So
makes me
so
another
those
thing that pisses me
yeah.
off.
But the thing is with those people, they're not going to be visiting GameStop anymore and doing that anymore. They're just going to subscribe to Game Pass.
That's a good point. That's a great point.
That's going to be the story of this generation is that it's too good to pass up. And we know PlayStation, they announced the PlayStation Plus Legacy Collection or whatever, which is
Mhm.
also pretty astounding. The games you're going to be able to play, day one, major PlayStation 4 hits that, if you're jumping into this generation,
Well,
you haven't had those experiences, those are pretty valid.
I guess like that's kind of weird to me because it's like most people who are going to be buying a PS5 have probably already owned a PS4. Most people, I think. And
But of that
you know,
list for you in particular, right?
mm,
If you have that list in front of you, or if you
I
know it,
don't. The like I can
are
look it
there
up.
games in there that you skipped out on? Because for me, right, I'm more of a lapsed gamer than you. For sure, in that list, there's games I haven't tackled that now I have the option to.
It's called the
For
Legacy Collection. Is that what it's called? No, it's
I
not.
think so.
I typed in PlayStation Legacy Collection and all it came up with Mega Man Legacy Collection on PS4. So I don't.
Hmm.
We'll come back to that. It
Yeah,
might not be what
yeah,
it's called.
PlayStation Plus Legacy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the wrong word. So it's just going to be very interesting to see how these two different strategies play out. It's just very obvious that the Game Pass subscription model, the Netflix of video games, is super appealing, especially if the entry
Right.
point to the system is so cheap with the Series S. Um, yeah, do you hear that sound going up and down right now?
That's my yes. That I don't hear it. You hear it.
Yeah.
It's from literally scrolling this thing trying to find what you're talking
Mm.
about. The what was I going to say? I want to get to the point where we don't have to worry about consoles anymore. I just want to be able to subscribe to whatever. I like the Xbox version. I'm sure PlayStation will eventually have a version of it, but and like one of the things that bugs me about PlayStation Plus is that I have to log in and like download. I have to physically go and like download each game or like mark that I want them every month, which
Not
just seems
always.
so unnecessarily
Yeah.
like restricted. Absolutely, you have if you want
I've
a
had
PlayStation Plus
yeah,
game.
but I've had games that have just been automatically downloaded to my system without even asking for it.
It's even worse. I just I just want to
Well,
know that I can go back if it was a PlayStation Plus game, go back and play it for free if I'm a subscriber to PlayStation Plus.
but
Instead, I have to
thing
mark it
is,
that that's the one I want. That's the
well,
one.
the thing is that they're offering these free games, and if you're not going to visit their store, to where the goal is for you to actually buy other things and not just tune in for the free downloads, then they're gonna, you're gonna have to go through those hoops if you want to call them that. But
Right.
essentially, you're turning your PS4 on, you're visiting the storefront, and then you're clicking one or two more times to just get those games in your library. And then sometimes, right, you're going to browse other things, and they want to take you and advertise you in different directions, give you more deals, and buy more shit. Right? It's not you're not into that, so you
Yeah.
want it to be automatic.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't.
Right.
Again, it's anti-consumer. It's another move to just get you to buy more stuff. So okay, Sony has announced the PlayStation Plus collection PS5 described as a new PlayStation Plus benefit for PlayStation 5. It's a bundle of generation-defining PS4 games be able to
You
download
sound
at launch.
like a robot right now.
Sorry, do I? How about now?
It's just it's just like very stuttery.
Oh wait, okay, hold on. Checking. Let me stop sharing my screen here. How's that now?
That sounds better. Yeah.
Better? Okay. So here's what we got. There's God of War, Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, Battlefield 1. That one's really interesting because I never did get around to playing Battlefield 1, but that I might consider it.
Right.
Monster Hunter. I wonder what they would do for multiplayer, how that works. Monster Hunter World, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy was that 15? The Last Guardian, Ratchet and Clank, Infamous Second Son, Days Gone. I wish I never played. Bloodborne, Detroit. Never played that. Batman
Mhm.
Arkham Knight, Mortal Kombat X, Persona 5, Until Dawn, and Resident Evil Biohazard, which I guess is what is that a remake of the original one?
No, that's just That's like Resident Evil 7, isn't it?
I have no idea.
You called it Biohazard or something.
It's
Yeah.
called Resident Evil Biohazard. Yeah, I don't know.
And we don't even know how much different these games are going to look.
I would go off on a limb and say not at all.
Right.
Not at all different.
Well, they talk about how certain games are going to be just they're going to be up-res just natively or whatever, right? I don't know. I mean,
well, I guess like they will up-res it to 4K. I'm sure it'll run really smoothly. All that stuff will be great. Meanwhile, Xbox, you got a full backwards compatibility. You just throw in an Xbox disc in your Series X, and you're playing. Can't think of one game for the original Xbox that I'd want to play. But you know what? I want the option. Damn it.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I don't really care about backwards compatibility that much. I want to play new games, and that's another frustrating element.
I can play all PS4 games basically. So
yes, but
so
here's
all your
the other
collection will live on, and you can throw them in there, but you can't get the digital edition, or you can't play those.
That's the other thing that kind of bums me out about the PlayStation 5 release lineup. And what really kind of softens my excitement towards getting into next gen right away is that a lot of the games that we thought were exclusive to PS5 are going to be playable on PS4, which just means that's fine. If the games are here, I'll stick with the PS4 for a little bit longer until I have to move. And they're not saying I have to move. The only game that we know in the that's really truly an exclusive in the launch lineup is Ratchet and Clank. And the Ratchet and Clank is not going to sell me on a PlayStation 5.
Deep Souls.
Well, I guess that, but even then, that's not going to because that is rumored to be coming to PC. Actually, there is this whole thing about some of the games that were shown at the Sony event originally had a coming to PlayStation and PC wordage, and then it was removed last minute and all this weird stuff. That'll be a PC port as well. The true PlayStation exclusive is for PlayStation 5 is Ratchet and Clank. That they'll actually take advantage of next gen console technology, and everything else is.
You're gonna like that game.
And maybe I will, but it's not going to sell me on spending $500-$600 on a PlayStation 5 on day one, which I couldn't get anyway.
Yeah, but that's not the only goal. You're gonna do it because you know that they have Uncharted. You're doing it for the exclusives.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Even like Spider-Man Miles Morales, which we now know will come to PS4. I can play that. I don't have to upgrade for that.
I agree with you. It's easy to wait right now.
Yeah.
It's very easy to wait, especially with Miles Morales being available on PS4.
Absolutely. Oh, that's that would have sold me. That might have sold me, but this doesn't now.
Surprise you that you get Spider-Man PS4 remastered on.
I'm not going to replay that game. I like that game. I'm just gonna play Miles Morales. I don't replay games very often, Jeremy. I'm a kind of like once through, give me a new experience kind of guy. Right. Unless it's like an online. There's like an online component. Battlefield always brings me back, that kind of thing. Horizon Forbidden West, another game that we thought was PlayStation 5 exclusive, also coming to PlayStation 4. I want to play those games on PS5. For the record, I want to play it on 4K. I want to play it without slowdown and stutter. My PlayStation is on its last legs. It still does freeze up on me, even though I replaced the fan. So I do want to move, but it's kind of crazy to me how much Sony's almost incentivizing me not to want to upgrade. They're like, no, don't worry. These games will be there for you. The PlayStation 5, it can wait. It can wait. It's going to be there. There probably won't even be copies for you to buy, even if you want one. That's kind of how it feels like to me. It's like, man, you guys are really doing your best to try to discourage me from buying PlayStation 5. And that's without even talking about the fucking bullshit that was their pre-order system or their pre-order whole thing. It pisses me off. I watched the PlayStation event. They said they were going to the pre-orders are going to go live the next day. I would have done it, by the way. I would have done it. I would have gone and just pre-ordered a PlayStation 5 disced version, or at least tried to. But instead, it was Friday. I think it was Friday. It was a Friday, right? I went out for dinner Friday night. While I was out for dinner, the pre-orders went live early. and I didn't even have a chance. I didn't even know it was happening. I didn't even have a chance to like sit down and get ready to do the pre-orders because I think it was like Best Buy or Target or someone like Walmart or something like that went early, and then everyone else is like, "Fuck it! If they're going early, we're going early." And then it was just a fucking free for all, and that fucking pisses me off because then it was just like if you were on Twitter at the right time, you might have known that it was happening because it was like all like happening so fast, right? But when the actual pre-orders were supposed to go live, they were all gone already. It's like that fucking sucks. That really pissed me off. So, it's gonna be like for the Switch. I tried to get a Switch forever. I think it took me almost a year before I was able to get the Switch, and I was living in Cayman at the time, so it was even harder. But it took it would be stupid stuff like GameStop and EB Games would do things like where like they didn't have Switches in stock, but you could buy a Switch, but you had to buy it in some bundled up with like 2 games and all this other bullshit crap you would never buy in a million years. Is like plushy Mario dice and like a lunchbox and like, but you had to buy that whole kit if you wanted a Switch, or lucky enough to maybe get the random one that pops up, the one copy that pops up, once a week. So I just can foresee all this happening again, and it drives me. I'm like preemptively annoyed. My blood pressure is already going up.
Yeah.
Like but when you bought a Switch, like you just walked into the store and it was just there.
I got mine for my birthday, actually.
Oh, you didn't have to even worry about it.
Yeah, that's true.
But like, I guess like my plan here's maybe we can go over what best case scenario, right? I'll be able to buy a disc version of the PlayStation 5 within the first couple months, hopefully before Christmas, and really give me a lot of time to sit down and like dive into some of these games. Like, I'll probably hold off on Cyberpunk, for instance, which again that's kind of exciting to me, but I just don't think my PlayStation 4 will be able to handle it. It'll just completely shut down. So I'm gonna wait to see if I can get that on PS5 and like just really sink my teeth into like some of these games that really are designed for next gen. Hopefully before Christmas. Then in the new year, look to try to pick up a Series S, maybe, and Game Pass, and just like play Flight Simulator and play Halo Infinite, which I haven't played a Halo game. I've never owned a Halo game. Love Halo. Never owned a Halo game. That would be pretty cool to actually like play a Halo game, start to finish, and kind of really sink my teeth into that lore again. And just like really get my money's worth of that Game Pass. Like and didn't EA announce that they're also adding in support for Game Pass with some of their games? Am I crazy, or did I dream that?
You might have.
So I don't know. So best case scenario for you, Jeremy. And again, this is within the real world. Like money's not an object. Obviously, you could just buy whatever. I'd buy both top of the line systems and every game, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. Best case scenario for you, realistically, what do you think is how is this next gen going to play out for you? At least at the beginning.
I'm probably going to skip out on these first iterations of these models.
Avoid the
think
drift and all that stuff.
Yeah, I just think
that first edition.
But like you said, there isn't that next gen game or experience yet that
right.
I'm like, I need to get into. An example of that during the pandemic, the beginning of it, right? We all jumped in on Call of Duty Warzone.
Oh, yeah, that was such a fun throwback experience.
We had a new experience there, which was a throwback experience for sure, but it was almost like a constant, scheduled thing that you would do because you didn't have anything else scheduled. And there's no games that I can see that will want me to pursue that type of
right.
scheduling.
Until the next Battlefield game comes out, then we are talking.
There isn't, a huge story-driven game other than maybe Miles Morales that I really want to get into. But like you said, it's on the PS4. It's a cheaper next-gen game, so I wonder how much it'll be on, PS4.
Right.
And there's no Uncharted. There's no God of War. There.
Well, we do. There is a God of War coming. We found out that's coming next year.
That was, a tease. Ragnarok, which would be cool to see what Daniel thinks of that one. Which is, obviously a major
next year. And this is another
I mean,
by the way.
yeah, it's gonna get pushed.
Yeah, it's gonna
Everyone's
get pushed, but
you
this
know,
is by the way another example of a game that's not going to be truly next gen, because if they're able to put out God of War, a year and a half ago, and then put out the next game, this is like it
well,
used to be normal 3 years. What?
it's the same thing with Miles Morales and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right? Spider-Man came out like 2 years ago or whatever, or something like
Mhm.
that. We need to get used to these I guess you can say smaller versions of expected new games,
Right. The
especially
1.5 version of the
especially for a
sequel.
sequel, but it's
Yeah.
but like who cares? Like look at our complaint with The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Major wait, and my only complaint was just too long. Like it just felt too long.
Which is,
I
by the
love
way, our favorite complaint of every movie, show,
Yeah.
and video game we've ever played.
But when you think about Miles Morales, it's like, is that a game that you want? Yeah, I'm gonna sink my teeth into this and just live this life for 3+ weeks or something. It's like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, not really. Yeah.
exactly. So it's cool that we're gonna get this Miles Morales story. It's cool that we're gonna God of War Ragnarok story, but what are our expectations leading into this? Is it going to be of the same level as the God of War of what you said 2 years ago or whatever,
2018. Yeah.
2018?
Mhm.
And are we going to be happy if it isn't? You know what I mean? It all kind of depends how it shakes out, how the experience is.
Right.
I'd imagine they want to do something new.
Well, I mean,
They did with
who
that
knows? There might be another trilogy, right? So God of War
Yeah, no,
3
definitely a
or something.
sequel, but again, I think the aim with video games is to introduce new things. And I
Right.
think the reinvention of God of War did that. Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But we're jumping a generation here.
Well, it just
show
God
us
of War
something.
is interesting because it reminds me a lot of the original God of War trilogy, which was like, people will forget this, by the way, but God of War 2 actually came out after the launch of the PlayStation 3 on the PS2. So, and then like the true next gen game of God of War was God of War 3, and that game was gorgeous. I remember like that opening shot of Gaia, and you're climbing on Gaia's back. It's like you're fighting Poseidon. It's like blowing your mind. I still think about it. It's like, I'm sure it doesn't look as good as I remember, but like it still probably looks very good. And like now it's like the true version of the next gen version of the rebooted God of War is going to be the third iteration that comes out on the PS5.
Right. And that reminds me of the rumors when I don't know if you remember me talking to you about this, but someone said that God of War was the rumored secret game that Sony was going to announce.
Right.
That ended up becoming true here.
Mhm.
With that rumor, they said that they were aiming to achieve like a level of detail to where it's
Right.
indiscernible from real life.
Reality? No, I can't. But like, so
With
we know that can't be true in this case.
with the human models and stuff
Sure.
like that, right? They're
But it
aiming
can't be.
for a
It can't
different
be true
level.
because we know they've been working on this basically off of PS4 tech. I'm sure, by the way,
Right.
that God of
Yeah.
War 2 will probably come out for the PS4 as well. Is my guess. So I'm sure it'll be a very pretty game. Maybe the
Right.
third version will be the indistinguishable from real life version, which is crazy to think. I mean, we can even have that conversation. There is some interesting things. I mean, we're talking about like, what was Sony's biggest strength, which was their exclusives, and then they announced some new ones. Hogwarts Legacy. I guess we don't know for sure. Do we know if that's an exclusive or not? But a Hogwarts open world RPG I don't love Harry Potter stuff, but even this kind of excites me about Harry Potter stuff. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of the Harry Potter lore, that whole world, and a video game where you can kind of just live in there and create your own character, I guess.
Did you play the tie-in games for like GameCube and stuff back in the day?
No, but you guys made fun of me when I said I want to collect all those and get them.
I did play them.
They had one for each book,
Basically,
essentially.
Yeah.
Which is cool to have a library of those games that you can dive
Sure.
into. Maybe if
Just
you
like
do
I'm sure it's I'm sure it's cool to own the Green Lantern tie-in video game too.
Yeah, well, I've talked that already. But I mean, with those ones in particular, right? You could let's say you binge the movies or you're watching the movies. It'd be cool to watch the movie, jump into the game, play the game.
It sounds like you're pitching a good podcast here, Jeremy, which is where you watch a movie and then play the tie-in video game from 1997.
Right? Why not? And Harry Potter would be a major endeavor, because of how many there are. But like Lord of the Rings, right? There was those three. But they were, I believe we all played
those brawlers, basically. Yeah. Those I'd replay. I don't know how well they hold up either. I imagine not well. But so anyway, that's really interesting. Again, this idea of like, exclusives are what was the king for PlayStation. And this brings me back, by the way, to the point that I didn't really get to. I asked you what you thought. Are those the Bethesda games that Microsoft purchased in buying Bethesda? Are they going to be exclusive to Xbox? And I read a really interesting tweet. I don't know if it was from Jason Schreier or someone else on Twitter, but it was basically like, if you're Microsoft and you've been getting your ass kicked by people saying you don't have the games, you don't have the games, you don't have the games for the last 7 years, and then you put out, you spend $7.5 billion to buy some of the biggest franchises in gaming. You don't do that to not put it exclusively on your console. And it just like rung true to me. This is kind of this weird kind of like alternate, schism or something going on in the gaming world where it's like no one would ever consider, Sony putting out any of their games onto an Xbox console. They have done it a little bit with PC. They've done it a little bit with PC. But no one gives them shit for that. They don't get in shit for that. But and they're like, oh, Sony they got the exclusives. That's what they do. Great. And then, Microsoft, they don't have the exclusives. What are you supposed to do? And then they go and buy them, right? They go and actually acquire the exclusives. And now it's like, oh, well, fuck these guys. They got the exclusives. Now but you know what? Don't worry. They'll probably put them out for the PlayStation 2. It's going to be fine. It's like, no. What are you talking about? You've been giving them shit on this for how long? They finally go and fix it, and now your expectation is that they're not actually going to make them exclusive. That you're actually you're just going to have your cake and eat it too, which is that you're going to have a PlayStation 5 and you're just going to get all these Bethesda games, even if despite that Microsoft bought it, just because you think that that's what they're going to do. I don't think that's the case. Maybe the first round of games that are in development now will be multi-platform, but I think after that, I really don't think that they're not going to be exclusive. The only wrinkle there is this idea of this like built-in ad for the Game Pass, where just like you could buy it for $90 on PlayStation 5, or for $15 a month, you can just have it day and date. Basically free. You're already you're already paying for it. It's like no one thinks about new movies on Netflix costing you. They technically do because you're paying every month, but they're free, right? Same idea here. You can get it for free, right? And then, or you could buy it for $90. That's the only wrinkle there. But I really do think that a lot of those games, like a lot of that stuff that the Microsoft just bought, it's going to be Microsoft exclusive, which is like, again, kind of anti-consumer. There's a lot of this like going on in a lot of parts of media. This consolidation of brands and IPs under one roof. Disney, buying Fox and buying Marvel, and owning all these brands, and then Warner Brothers buying up pieces, and then it just shrinks the competition, and which is ultimately bad for us as consumers. Even though it's exciting to see Spider-Man in the MCU, or to see the X-Men back in the MCU, which is probably a better example here. It's not good for us long term, because now there's no competition in creativity here. And I think the best case scenario for consumers in the video game space is a little bit, maybe it's maybe still far flung, maybe it's still 20 years off, but it's the VCR of video games, which is that we don't need to worry about consoles anymore. Every machine, every household has something that can play the games, whether it's cloud computing or whatever. and you can just play any game on anything, any TV, your phone, your tablet, whatever. You can just play it, and that will restore that creativity. If assuming that not every single studio is either owned and operated by Sony or Microsoft at some point, or EA and Ubisoft, I guess, those the four pillars of gaming. It's kind of scary. There's just not as much competition as there used to be. We used to have you'll also be able to buy between 3 consoles that were of similar quality, right, or fidelity. That's not true anymore. It's like if you want the top end, it's Microsoft or Sony. If you want the other thing, it's Nintendo. Sega's gone. They're being rumored that they might be purchased by who knows, maybe by Sony. They've just anteed up now. Kind of Microsoft just dropped the gauntlet.
I thought it was rumored that Microsoft was buying.
Well, I just don't think that's going to happen now after this Bethesda purchase. Like, you're not going to go and buy Bethesda and then Sony, and also that purchase that they had recently. They just buy
buying like an overseas company, right? Like pioneers of the game industry and.
Exactly. And then that leads to Capcom and Konami and all these other.
It does show you power of exclusives, which we kind of want to get into that world where you just play anything on any device you have and it's all available, and you pick and choose. But exclusives are just, you gotta look at Nintendo, right? Like they've
lived on exclusives their whole life. Yeah.
And Sony's kind of been doing that recently, and it's always been that comparison. And Microsoft is trying to, go away from that and just be on level playing field, and in even some ways not very level. If you there's certain gamers out there that if you're a PlayStation guy, but you like those could be your jams. You know what I mean?
Right? Like how big was Elder
Scrolls is massive.
Elder Scrolls is huge. Like, you just can't understate how important some of those franchises are to some gamers. Like, Final Fantasy is another example, by the way. Like, some gamers are, but they live and breathe Final Fantasy.
Well, Sony announced that Final Fantasy 16 is
exclusive. Exactly. So it's like, imagine you're an Xbox gamer and you've been playing Final Fantasy games on your Xbox for the last 15 years. Now it's like, fuck. Now I gotta go buy a fucking PlayStation.
It just goes back and forth, right? If you're a Spider-Man fan since you were a baby, and then you so happen to like Halo and you've been buying Xbox, you don't get to play the great Spider-Man game that exists.
No, it's a real, and like, I feel fortunate because I've been basically on we've I don't know if chosen wisely is the right necessarily.
Well, we've compared exclusives, and it's a no-brainer. This is why Microsoft is doing this. Is that I always just said if you like Gears and Halo and Forza,
then buy an Xbox.
But if you want God of War, you name it.
Uncharted, Last of Us.
Earlier ones like Killzone, things like that. It's just a wide variety of AAA games.
Ghost of Tsushima. It did, like, exactly, and I think we that's what we did. We sat back and you sold me the PS3 when they were they were cheaper then. The PS3 Slim was a great redesign, and I think you might be right in saying, hey, let's just wait till that redesign for that PS5.
It's going to be a year or two, but I mean, whatever.
Right, but like
PS4.
I kind of hope that they don't do the half-step consoles like they did last gen, like with the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. Is that what it was called? And the Xbox One S. Like, I don't want that because it just complicates things even more. It just becomes a quagmire. I'm not interested in that. Just give me a redesign. Give me the PS5 Slim. That's black and looks like a PS4, and I'll be happy. The other thing that's really that's kind of all this kind of news has made me think about, and one of the things we don't really talk about a lot is PC gaming, because it's always felt a little obtuse, like hard to get into. It's very complicated. And of course, when you start talking about all these different models of console, it gets very complicated as well. So I'm very aware of that. But the one kind of part of gaming that we were really excited about, at one point, which is VR. None of us really got into it. when it finally became like a reality with PlayStation VR, something that was like attainable.
But I still think it's the future of video games too.
Yeah, it's certainly. I think it likely is. I think there'll always be
Be
the flat
surrounded in
screen
those
version.
environments is just another level of immersion. That once it becomes seamless and convenient,
Right.
it's going to be a whole different ballgame.
I'm waiting for, and so one of the things that was announced was NVIDIA announced their what I can't remember what they're called, the 36, their 3000 range. I think there's like a 3020 and a 3080 and a
3080 graphics card.
Yeah, that are very expensive, like $1,500. They're super expensive, but actually relatively cheap for a brand new graphics card of that range. That's able to play 8K, all this kind of crazy next level stuff.
I paid that for a 1080 Ti. Basically.
Right. Yeah, and the 1080 now is like super cheap, in comparison. Like
that one actually isn't super cheap, just based off of its production.
Well, I think my understanding is that like the 3020, which is like the entry level graphics card, is better than the 2080.
Yeah.
And like $500 cheaper than the 2080 was when it was launched. So it's like, that's some really interesting stuff there that makes me kind of lean, like maybe I should invest in like a beefy PC, right? And like really start looking at VR seriously. I'm still kind of waiting for that kind of like that device, even if it's really expensive, that's like, this is the one like that you're going to need to have.
Like I said, a convenient machine. It's just, I don't think we're even close to that yet. I think you're going to get really cool experiences like Half-Life.
Alex.
Basically the only one, and there's like Beat Saber.
Well, I think there's like, Beat Saber. There's like, apparently there's a lot of really cool experiences in VR that are just a little bit more niche, right?
But I think what you're thinking of, what I'm hoping it gets to, I just don't think we're close to that.
Well, I mean, like I'm saying, like even I'm thinking it's got to be wireless. The resolution's got to be 4K. Like I don't want screen door effect, right? You know what I'm saying? And it's got to be able to have good sound, and it's got to be room scale. You know what I mean? Like you need to be able to move a little bit. And if that costs $1,000, I don't think we even have that yet. But if that costs $1,000, I would probably buy that. And know that I was like, okay, I'm fairly future proofed. I can play VR for the next 5 years, 6 years, 10 years. I might have to keep upgrading my PC over that time, but the actual hardware itself that I can play it on would be kind of future proof. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I don't know if we're there yet. I know they announced the Quest, the Quest 2, which is really, I think that's pretty interesting. But like, I just feel like there's experience. Those are experiences. Like I'm ready for VR to take off, but I just like you said, it's just like you need that like really cheap, like $300 VR machine that can play the Half-Life Alexes of the world to really get people excited, and we're not there yet. But I want us to be there so bad because I think you're right. I think VR is the future of gaming. It's like you said. I mean, it doesn't make sense for every game. Like, could you play Spider-Man in VR? I know there was a Spider-Man VR game for the PlayStation VR, but it was just like, I think you just stood on a roof and like shot webs at stuff. Like,
right.
You know what I mean?
But just even sitting there holding a controller and you're just in the environment, I think sounds appealing to me. I mean,
or be able to like replicate playing a game on like an IMAX screen, which is kind of what you can do in VR.
Yeah.
Well, I think, is there anything we haven't touched on? I think we covered basically everything. I mean,
it's an ongoing thing. We're a couple months out here till next gen arrives. I believe some influencers have the Series X already in their hands.
No, really?
Yeah, I think IGN got one.
That's crazy. What a smart move if you're
not like the final version, but it runs like
developer version.
It's got all the back components and everything.
But it doesn't. Yeah, it probably doesn't look as sleek or whatever.
But like, it's also like we don't even know the UI, the interface, what the PlayStation 5 one looks like at all.
It's gonna be cross media bar. I will bet you. I'll put it in the book right now that it's a cross media bar.
So you're saying that the same thing?
I think it's a version of the XMB.
Like, so you're talking about the PS3 version?
I'm saying like the PS3 had a XMB, and then the PS4 had a version of the XMB. It was a little bit different, but it's same concept. it's going to be in that same wheelhouse. It's going to be a version of that style of UI. Do you think it's going to be radically different?
I think kind of, yeah. I think that's their whole strategy here, is just to really do a facelift in terms of the look of the console.
Yeah, we're going white this time.
Yeah, and how they're running it, right?
Right.
I think the PS4 cross media, it wasn't the same as the PS3.
I didn't even like it as much as
Looked
this
the same.
PS3.
It just didn't transition how it should have. I don't think it worked.
It always felt like I was like in the
Very
wrong row. Like I was
Yeah.
like, and then like games would never be where I expected them to be.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it was.
organize anything.
Yeah.
Like I go to YouTube a lot. I have to go into like 3 button pushes to get to it.
Well, that's because they
With my
buried it in
all the
that
way
other
up.
section.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like so that stuff is dumb. Like I definitely agree that I think that'll be fixed, but I think it's gonna be in this. It's gonna be pretty similar. Is my guess, at least to start. The wireless, I guess, or the surround audio, whatever that like 3D audio stuff that they're doing. That is maybe the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
The PS5 somehow. Just I think
The controller is exciting. Like, I'm excited to get away from the DualShock 4 and get that DualSense. I think it
the
just
haptic feedback triggers
it
and
seems
stuff.
way more techy, and I'm excited to.
The idea of having white on my controller is not a good idea. I think it's going to look very dirty very fast.
I think the controller looks better with the two-tone color, but the console itself, I think, will look very nice with all black with that blue light.
Sure. I just want to be able to buy a non-two-tone controller like as fast as possible. Give me that gray, give me that retro gray.
They could show up in retail maybe even before the launch of the console too.
Yeah, I'm seeing like you can buy other controllers, but they're all in white. So or the PlayStation 5 Media Remote for $40, or the PlayStation 5 HD camera for $80. Or the Pulse 3D wireless gaming headset for PlayStation 5 in white for $130, which or the controller charging station for $40. That's the other option. You can also buy. That actually looks pretty cool, to be honest. Which is more up your alley. You just love having a nice displayed controller.
You gotta be prepared. Everything's gotta be
functional. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And then just go and buy that $300 1 terabyte storage expansion for your Xbox. Oh yeah, the other weird thing. This is so stupid. This is I forgot to bring this up, but this is we'll kind of end on this. But the Xbox Series X and Series S controllers still take fucking AA batteries. What the fuck is going on there? It blows my mind that anything in this year of our Lord 2020 would use AA batteries for modern electronics is mind-blowing, baffling. A new controller is $75, and then if you want the play and charge kit, it's another $30 fucking for the rechargeable battery that goes in the controller.
Yeah, I mean, save up your coins here.
Yeah, well, not pennies. We don't have those anymore. There's your nickels and dimes and your quarters, your loonies and your toonies. All right, you can save those up because you're gonna be either that or you save those up and you buy like those giant packs of AA batteries from Costco. Then you could play your PlayStation, your Xbox games for forever. Like we had chargeable batteries in the PlayStation 3. That was standard operating procedure for the wireless controllers in place with PlayStation 3. The idea that you would ever need to have replaceable batteries in a controller in this day and age is stupid. I'm just gonna say it's stupid. I know there's people arguments are like, yeah, but now you don't have to worry, like the controller, the battery won't degrade over time and all that blah blah blah. No, it's dumb. I'm not buying that. The controller will break down probably in other ways before the battery becomes unusable in your controller. I mean, are you still using your original PlayStation 4 controllers?
Yeah.
And then the batteries last fine. Like
No, I think they're shit. I think the PS4 generation of controller battery has just been brutal. I mean, the PS3 was great. It would notify you, and you'd still have plenty of time. You'd still have at least 20 more minutes.
So you get the notification. How quickly is your thing dying after the notification?
It's very quick.
Okay. So like you
notice that?
No, no, not really.
Turn it on and you see the blinking icon of the battery. You're like, oh, come on. Like,
I feel like it goes from full to empty, but like it stays on empty for forever, which is one of those things where it's like, if you're gonna do rechargeable batteries, like give me accurate like charge information, like how much battery left do I actually have? 3 notches, and the first 2 notches go in the first 20 minutes, and then the last notch lasts like an hour and a half. Doesn't make sense. That also doesn't make sense. And also that
get 2 notches together here.
It's too many notches. Give me at least 5 notches. Okay. I think we've actually said everything there is to say about next gen gaming. If you have any thoughts, please join our Discord. Patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast, $5 a month. You get our movie club. We're doing Black Swan this month. That should be out around the same time this show goes live. And that's a Patreon exclusive. Always very fun. Very excited. Jeremy describes Black Swan as being something about making ballet badass, I believe. Is that correct?
I think so.
Okay. So we'll be watching that soon, and you can join in on that if you have any thoughts. Again, towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com is where you're going to send in any comments. We always do enjoy getting those for the movie club. But again, the Discord. If you have thoughts on next gen gaming, I'll probably make a gaming channel in there inside the Discord server. That's fun. We've been talking about The Boys in there. The last episode came out today. Having a blast watching that show. I think it's very, very fun. It's no Ted Lasso. That's my favorite. That's my show of the year so far. If I'm actually, by the way, I'm looking for somebody who's seen the show to record an episode of the podcast with. So if you're a fan of Ted Lasso and you know somebody who would be in the market for recording that episode, you let me know, because I want to do that. So that's another notification. That's towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com. Let me know. And then follow us on Twitter @TowerBabbleCast, Facebook.com/TowerBabbleCast, and head over to our website, towerbabble.ca. That's where you can find everything we do. That's it. We'll be back with more ToB Gaming, I'm sure, in the next couple months. But in the meantime, there'll be a ton of other ToB content, whether that's the movie club for Patreon exclusives or it's going to be full episodes. There's lots of Snyder Cut talk that we have to catch up on. Movie theaters are dying, and that's a big theme, so we got to talk about that. There's going to be lots of ToB content in the next little bit as well, so stay tuned for that, and we'll talk to you soon.